Brent Brennan is back as the head coach of the University of Arizona football team. What does this mean? Are there going to be changes? What does this mean for the future of Arizona football?
You are Locked On Wildcats, your daily podcast on the Arizona Wildcats. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for keeping it locked on Wildcats. This show is brought to you today by FanDuel. Check it out. Here's a great deal with FanDuel. You can put down $5 and you can get $150 in free plays if that bet hits. Go to FanDuel. Again, thank me later. All right. Brent Brennan is back as the head coach of the University of Arizona. Now, Desiree Reed Francois spent a lot of time trying to get money to be able to get rid of him. He was, she got a lot of it, but the decision has been made to be to bring him back and to reinvest in Brent Brennan. At this stage in the game, this is Brent Brennan's your guy. I don't know that you can watch what Arizona football has done this season and say that he has done a good job. As a matter of fact, I think it's pretty much been an F job. I also think that if you look at this roster, you also know that it's fairly unlikely you're going to be better without Teteroa McMillan, Jonas Savanea, etc., etc. But we will certainly see on that one. Now, as far as Brent Brennan goes, and this decision, here's basically on, Sunday, the staff was supposed to meet with the players, and then there was a notice sent out to hold back on all of that because there was going to be some meetings, basically to find out which coaches were back before they talk with the players that they want to return. That was what was sent out, and then Brent Brennan met with Desiree Reed Francois for a couple hours, and then a statement was released that he will be back and he will be given a fair chance. That is my first question. What does that mean, a fair chance? Because I look at this and I think that he has been given more than a fair chance. He inherited a roster that most first-year coaches would not inherit, and I think that was his fair chance. Now, again, maybe that was not good enough? I don't know. But this first year, there's no way to put it. This was malfeasance at the highest order as far as coaching goes. And and on and off the field, I think it just reeked of a coach, a good dude, a very good man, but it reeked of a coach that was just kind of in over his head. And I think that is the thing that I keep coming back to, is that all of this just came back to a coach that appeared to be somewhat in over his head. Now, when it comes to what the next step is, there's a couple different things that I think we need to talk about. First, who are the coordinators? Because, listen, Dino Babers is out, but the one non-starter for me, and I'm sure that he's going to be very, very good at I'm sure that he's going to be very, very good down the road, but Matt Adkins cannot be your offensive coordinator. Listen, Brent Brennan is very high on Matt Adkins. He likes Matt Adkins. You know what? And Matt Adkins might have a very, very good future in the industry, but that cannot be your offensive coordinator. If you go in with basically the guy that was calling plays to end the season, that to me reeks of somebody that doesn't get it. Then, if you go in with and so let's just talk about that for a second. This also can't be something where basically there's a couple coaches that are let go and all the San Jose State guys are back. That can't be an option. That has to be far from the option. There has to be wholesale changes here. The offense was obviously a disaster this past season. Not only was it a disaster, it was just awful. There's really no other way around it. And a lot of that started off with the offensive line. The offensive line was just bad, and it was bad across the board. And, even when it was healthy, it was not good. And I think the thing that you have to look at is that you have to look at it and be like, okay, well, not only was this a bad offensive line, there was player regression. A Wendell Moy, for example, example, I'm going to keep bringing him up. Wendell Moy was not good, and that falls on Josh Oglesby. These guys had a big step back this past season, and that is on the O-line. I just don't know that you can say that we're going to make wholesale changes and then bring back the offensive line coach. That to me makes very, very little sense. You need to get a real offensive coordinator in there. Not only do you need to get a real offensive coordinator in there, you need to get a real quarterbacks coach, because Noah, I don't think Noah was coached well this year. I mean, I think Noah was kind of just figuring things out for himself. And in this day and age, that can't really be the case. You can't have your quarterback who's, no matter how cerebral he is, you can't have a quarterback who's 21 years old and he's basically the offensive coordinator on the field. That can't be the case. That was essentially what this was this past year. And when you don't have a blocking scheme, that is going to be very, very difficult. Then you look up front, and as far as the running backs go, I'm okay with Alonzo Carter. I am not only am I okay with him, I think he's very good, and I think I would definitely bring back Alonzo Carter. He is. I think as long as Alonzo Carter is here, that running back room is going to be very solid, and a big reason why, obviously, is that I think Alonzo Carter knows talent. I also think that he knows. I also think that he has an understanding. I think he also has an understanding of where everything does reside as far as recruiting, the states you want to get into, things like that. And then, so again, I bring him back. Bobby Wade. I don't know, man. With Bobby Wade, nobody developed. None of the receivers developed. Not only did none of the receivers develop, you didn't really get anything, and I think that's a little bit of the concern, is that you didn't really get anything, and I think that is a little bit of the issue, is that you didn't get anything. And so it's hard for me to sit here and say that Bobby Wade did a really, really good job. Bobby Wade did a nice. I mean, Bobby Wade, obviously he got Tetaroa McMillan in there, but at the same time, anybody could have coached Tetaroa McMillan into what they did. I could have coached Tetaroa McMillan into what he did. That is not something that I give a ton of credit to, quite frankly. As a matter of fact, I pretty much give you no credit for that. The tight ends, obviously, that goes to Matt Atkins. I'm fine with moving Matt Atkins back, but just to the tight end role. But again, it can't be the offensive coordinator. That just can't be the case. If you bring back Matt Atkins as the offensive coordinator, that shows me that you're not serious at all about any of the offseason changes that you're going to make, because that was the biggest problem this year, was the offense. And again, while I blame Dino Babers for that, you can't bring back the guy that was basically calling the plays for the last 9 games of the season. That just can't be the case. But you also just got to kind of find out too, at this point, how serious really are you about this? How serious really how serious really are you now? And again, I think with Arizona, it's going to be something where you're just going to have to see how this unfolds game by game. But I would not bring Brent Brennan back. I just don't think that it makes enough sense. And I guess my question is, and we're going to talk about this coming up next, is what about Brennan leads anybody to believe? And then we're going to get into a little bit more of the coaching changes. But first, FanDuel. Check out FanDuel. Here's the deal with FanDuel. Right now, all kinds of good stuff. You put down $5 and you can get $150 in free plays if you are a new customer and you win. And listen, You got the NFL going on. You got the NBA. You got college basketball. You got college football. This is where it's at right now. And if you got a little bit of a hint or a little bit of a idea about what's going on, you're like, you know what? I'm going to put down a little bit of money there on FanDuel. This is the place to do it. Again, you know your money is good. Check it out at FanDuel.com. Thanks for keeping it locked on Wildcats. I'm your host, Micah Luke. All right, now let's talk a little bit about where Arizona is then with as far as Brent Brennan. The problem that I still have is that I just don't think that Brent Brennan gets this. Is with Brent Brennan, I don't think that you look at his post game presser and he's basically talking. He says everybody's going to enjoy people are going to enjoy every moment of the season next year. No, that's not going to be the case, and that's going to be a quote that's going to continue to be used against you. And then when you're talking about, well, you know what? If players come, with players, we've got to figure out exactly, who wants to be here, or if you want to be a bandwagon and go off and win somewhere else. Well, if you're talking to an 18 or 19-year-old kid, I'm probably going to go to a place where I can make more money and win. So again, that was an odd ultimatum to throw out there, but it was just quote after quote. And then throwing out the San Jose State players that have not, that have only been here 1 year as your media people for the last of the season. And it's Trey Smith and it's Quali Conley, and Trey Smith saying, coach knows what he's doing. And Quali Conley saying that the season wasn't a disappointment because they learned a lot. That to me is kind of tone deaf as well. Again, I don't see it, and I'm going to keep coming back to this. I don't see the vision for Brent Brennan. I don't see it, and not only do I not see it, I don't know exactly how you're going to be able to sell anybody on that. And that's going to be before we get into defense. We're going to talk about that. If you're from a fan perspective, if you're watching this and the city's already out on Brent Brennan, what is he going to say? What is he going to do that is going to make you say, you know what? I'm in on coach there at that point. He deserves a second chance because everything on and off the field has not been good, has not been, and again, it's not like it's been bad from a criminal perspective, but it's just been bad overall. There's been nothing to indicate that there's anything that, the coach understands this community, and that is I think that's the problem. Now, with Desiree Reed Francois, this is going to be interesting to see how this plays out because she's clearly, and again, I like Michael Lev. He's a good dude, good reporter, but he's clearly going to be the person that she's going to go to try to get her message out. And I don't buy it for a second that the expectations were unfair. Because again, when you're talking about unfair expectations, because of the depth and whatever, the players that you ran off would have been starters. Big Bill Norton would have been a starter. He was run off. Deuce Davis would have been a starter, would have been Arizona's best defensive lineman. He was run off. Then you've got, not only do you have that, you've also got a situation where you didn't add anybody. That to me is the problem. Not only is that the problem, I think that is that to me is just, you didn't bring in anybody. And again, I get that you get a late start. I totally get all of that. But you still weren't able to bring in anybody of any substance, and I still think that is the concern when we come down to all of this. Now, let's as from the fans, you're just going to have to win, and not only are you going to have to win, you're going to have to be in a spot where you're going to have to put out a field, because if you're out in the community now, nobody cares. You had that opportunity. Nobody cares, and that to me is the bigger concern is that nobody knows, nobody cares. So you're just going to have to win, and you're going to have to get Noah right. That is going to have to be a big part of that. That's going to have to be a big part of it. And if you don't win, then that's kind of where we're at with this. I think that we're also kind of at the stage too where the defense. We need to talk about the defense. Listen, I know that the numbers weren't good, but Dwayne Aquina, I thought did a fairly good job with the team because again, there was next to no talent on this team, and that's what I keep coming back to. There was next to no talent. And not only was there next to no talent, it was undersized and a lot of it was run off. I wanted, watching it, um, watching it, you also can see a lineup or you can also see a defense where, at least I kind of knew what they wanted to do. Again, it wasn't very good, but there were games where Arizona was good enough. Again, New Mexico was a dumpster fire, obviously, but it got better against NAU. Against Kansas State, you only gave up 24 offensive points. In a situation like that, that should be enough to be able to win the game. Utah was fine. And then a lot of these games too, like against Texas Tech, it was good enough. A lot of these games, the dam just kind of broke. And not only did it break, it broke quickly. So again, when you don't have a lot of talent, you got to try to mix and match stuff. And I think they were hoping that the offense would be able to be up to par, and the offense was obviously an epic disaster. So that again, I would imagine that Dwayne Aquina is going to be given the pink slip. I think that's stupid, to be honest with you, because when I look at it, I think that I think he did a fairly good job, and I'm also very concerned about what you are going to get going forward. And that is my main concern is who are you going to get going forward. But the thing that cannot happen is you cannot just basically fire a bunch of guys and keep all the San Jose State people. That makes no sense to me whatsoever, and that will be a terrible, terrible look. He is I look at this and I'm thinking to myself, Joe Samalo, don't think he did a very good job. You watch his pressers. Obviously, this is not somebody that really, that sticks out. I don't think that they knew what they were doing on the defensive line. And at the end of the day, that also goes back to to this head coaching staff and even Dwayne Aquina. Talk about it for a second. Big Bill Norton. That dude is good enough to be on the goal line against Texas in its most important goal line stand of the year, but he's running. He's running ones and twos with Chuba May, who's not good. That was a miscalculation. I'm going to keep saying this. Telling Deuce Davis that we don't know what position you are, we don't know what kind of role you are, and that the Big Ten is going to be too big for you. Meanwhile, he goes off and he's Big Ten Player of the Week coming off injury 2 weeks ago. That's just stuff that just can't happen at Arizona. You're going to lose some players. I get all of that, but you got to be able to at least figure some things out. And that's something that with Arizona it just wasn't good enough. The evaluations weren't good enough, and the line just wasn't good enough. All the players you brought in weren't good. I don't know how else to put that, and that's why I'm a little bit concerned about all of this. Is that none of the players you brought in were really good enough. And if Brent Brennan, again, he's going to get a year, but here's my next question then. If you bring back everybody except Dwayne Aquina and it's Danny Gonzalez, Joe Sumolo, and you're bringing in a new DC per se, and he's got all these position coaches that might have a different structure than him, that's something that I think is a little bit less than ideal as well. And there's a lot of people, too, that are like, you know what, you're just going to have to show me on the football field. And that's kind of where I think we are at this stage. On the, we're going to talk about player retention tomorrow. Some of these players that, who can you get back? Who are you going to have to get in the portal? And Arizona's going to have one really easy pitch. Yeah, come here. You can start. So there is at least that. But you're gonna lose a lot of guys. It'll be interesting to see what exactly will happen with. It'll be interesting to see what happens with Gunnar Maldonado, Traden Stukes, those guys. And not only will it be interesting to see what will happen with them, with those guys, it'll also be interesting to see what can happen with guys that are. How do I put this? Good enough that. Good enough that they can actually make an impact. And that's kind of where that is, because a lot of dudes are going to be run off. So we'll find out how exactly that is. Now, we are going to talk in just a second about where exactly then, who can you get? Who can you get? And is there a situation where you're like, okay, Arizona is in a good spot with some of these players? I don't really know. I don't really know exactly what the deal is with a lot of this because I think we're kind of at the stage now too where you know that you're just going to have to win. If you don't win, people aren't going to come watch you, and people aren't going to come. And that's why I think it was interesting that DRF is bringing him back because you're going to have next to nobody at these games. And I think that would be my main concern is that you're not going to have anybody at these games. And if you don't have anybody at these games, then I don't know how you're going to be really able to make any money. And that's the thing. I think you're looking at 15,000 people. Not only are you looking at 15,000 people, I think you're also looking at a list where nobody's really going there. So we're going to find that one out, and we're going to find out exactly, what exactly is going on here. But I'll give you the reason, too, that I don't think that any of this is going to work. But first, game time, game time, game time. Now, Arizona football should be an easy ticket next year. Download the Gametime app. Use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. All right, now at Gametime, here's the great thing about Gametime too, is that it works for everything. It works for concerts, it works for sporting events, all kinds of really good stuff. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime picks. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code Locked On College for $20 off. Download Gametime. What time is it? Gametime. Ooh. Now, with Gametime 2, you'll be able to find a lot of different avenues to go to games and concerts. Again, check it out at Gametime. Thanks for keeping it locked on Wildcats and making this your first listen of the day. I am your host, Mike Luke. All right, now, let's talk a little bit about what is the mentality? And I think the first thing that you have to have if you're Brent Brennan is what is going to be my mentality. I had him on another show, and he said that his mentality was that. He wished that he had thrown the ball downfield a little bit more. Okay. Cool. I get it. But what exactly does that mean? You wanted to throw the ball downfield more. When you watch Kenny Dillingham, he was able to get guys that were able to come in and play immediately. And I think the other thing too is that he had a vision. He was all about his players. Not only was he all about his players, he was a guy that was about, you come here, my job is to further you. My job is to get you further along. And he's done exactly that. Those guys would run through a brick wall for him. And that's something that I think is a departure from Arizona and Brent Brennan. When I've asked Brent Brennan what he wants to do, he didn't really know. And I think that's more of the issue is that he didn't really know. I don't know how exactly you can come in here and not really know what you wanted to do. That to me is the issue. You don't know what you want to do. If you don't know what you want to do, but it's going to be a spot where it's not going to be very good. Now, from a recruiting perspective, what are you looking for? Are you trying to get, is there a region you're going to try to get in? And this is something that Jedd Fisch did. Jedd Fisch had an identity. And that is always what I'm going to come back to, though, is that Jedd Fisch had an identity. He knew exactly the regions that he was going to recruit. He knew exactly the type of player that he wanted. And not only did he know the exact type of player that he wanted, he was able to go out and get it, and when he missed, you at least knew that was the type of player that he wanted. And there was honestly, there's none of that with Brent Brennan. You don't know what kind of players he wants. Not only do you not know what kind of players he wants, you also don't You also don't know what exactly he wants to do from an engagement, from a community perspective, all kinds of things. So that's where, to me, it's a little bit confusing, and we're going to find that one out. Now, tomorrow, we're going to talk about a little bit about how we're going to talk a little bit about where Arizona is. How are they going to be able to, really sell something here? Because this is going to be a tough product for a lot of people to swallow. Is he going to be able to do it? Is he going to be able to get different makers? How valid was it that transfer portal that he talked about, he only got that one, and then that's a difficult one? So there's a lot of that in there, and we're going to talk about all of that. But as always, very, very much appreciate you all making Locked On Wildcats your first listen of the day. I'm your host, Mike Luke. Bear down, back the A, and we will be back with you tomorrow.